Hello, 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 and welcome to the mini art challenge with Sugar Hill Art Studio. I'm so happy you are here and joining in on this fun little prompt challenge that we have going on. So you are welcome to use index cards. That's what I have here. I wanted to try them out. I typically, almost always, will use watercolor paper. Either 90-pound or preferably and mostly 140-pound cold pressed watercolor paper. I'll cut that to the 3x5 size, same size as an index card, and use that only because I tend to be very heavy-handed with my art supplies, with my paint. Right here, you're gonna see my paint was a little sticky, so I'm gonna use water. See that? And the index card isn't going to hold the paint and water as well as, say, if I used watercolor paper. However, don't let me deter you from using index cards because they work perfectly fine. This pack came from the dollar store, so don't fret too much. Just get yourself a bunch of 3x5, so they're there. The other thing I really love to do when I work in this style is break the white space on a few pieces. So here I end up doing 6, and there's 2 reasons. Number 1, I almost always have enough paint to do 2 cards. Like, I typically just use a lot of paint. I'm heavy-handed. Here I kind of am using a little bit of that purple, kind of a limited palette. I believe I use 4 colors total, maybe 5 or 6. This is where you want to play with colors, see what works. What colors do you like together? All the things. So, a little purple and tangerine color. Never hurt anyone. See right there, my finger resting on that index card pulled that paint up. I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna cover it. These are layered and loaded with all kinds of things. So a little boo-boo like that is not a big deal. All right, so I'm switching it up and doing a little bit of green turquoise colors. You see all that paint? Yeah, see how much paint I put on there? So here I am. I'm like, okay, I don't want another background exactly that color. So what do? I reach for a stencil, and I'm going to layer that blue or that turquoise on top of that periwinkle. That's one of my favorite color combinations. Just using the brush, it works out perfectly. You'll see here in a minute. You can just lay it down. I'm not concerned about it being perfect. Remember, we're layering. These are backgrounds. Don't fall in love with your layers. Don't fall in love with, the first layer of paint you put down, because you're really going to find that the more layers you add, the cooler your end piece looks. You're just every layer that you build gives more and more dimension and depth, which adds a beautiful background to your actual subject of your page, or in this case, mini art card. Okay, so still working off of all of that turquoise color that I have. I believe I'm gonna here we go. So I'm just gonna kind of use more of that, spread it over here. I don't like to waste paint. I like to use it all. It's a lot of times why I will put paint directly on the background surface that I'm using, and kind of just go from there. You can see how sticky and movable the index cards can be, and it's all good. So we're just gonna put that over there, and then I'm gonna go into some lime green. That's so great with the turquoise color. And I end up with 6 in this little study here. You'll see, again, heavy-handed with my paint. These Dana Wakley acrylic paints are quite wonderful, honestly. They layer wonderfully. They are beautiful colors. I have a lot of fun using them in my mixed media pieces when I'm not too worried about mixing colors, or I just want to be able to grab some little paints quickly. That little set from Blick Arts also is quite a wonderful little set. It's kind of nice to have the sample size acrylics for when you travel around, or to keep in a little bag, like a little art tote for you to bring perhaps to your, your dining room table, if that's where you do your art, or if you're going away on vacation. I will post a link to both of those below in the comment section of this video if you are interested. Again, it will be an Amazon affiliate link. You do not have to use it, but I wanted to let you know that every little bit that you do helps me grow, and honestly, that goes into an Amazon account where I can buy more supplies and introduce more techniques and give a little trial run for you. Okay, we're almost ready for part 2, which is the super fun part. You want to make sure they're pretty dry. It's acrylic, it dries pretty quickly. You know, if they're still cool to the touch, they're a little damp. Again, working on the index cards might pull up a little bit more than the watercolor paper, but while they're drying, go collect your stencils. Collect any mark making tools that you have, because now this is where the fun begins. Here, I pick it up and put it down a few times, mostly because I couldn't decide if I wanted the circles to go off on both sides or if I wanted a full circle on one edge. Little tiny things that don't always matter. Makeup sponge and some complementary colors, or actually it's not the complementary, it's just a brighter tone. I keep things within the cool or warm family. You don't want to split your colors too much, but this is a great color theory exercise. All of this that you're doing, building these backgrounds and getting your mini art cards done or started. Don't do all 43. You won't be happy with that. But if you do a couple and set them aside, you know, you might really have some great background. And other days, you might grab one of the index cards and feel like just drawing, and that's okay. But we're just building backgrounds, excuse me, and enjoying the process of color theory, honestly, here. Okay, so on this one, I've got a little lavender and periwinkle. Searching through, I'm gonna go with the Mandela style. Now, my stencils come from all over. I grab them from the dollar store. I order bulk little mini samples from Amazon. I've gotten them in the sales section of Michael's. Almost any time I see a stencil that grabs my attention, I buy it. I tend to have more shapes, more repetitive kind of back styles, because I use them so much in background and not always as my forefront. Okay. So up close and personal, trust me, you can see that that's there. It's it's loose or muted, but that's okay. I wanted a very light layer on this. So that purple that I'm using is it has more red in it than the light lavender. So in person and up close, you do actually see this. Now it's a little damp, again, working on that card. So it is pulling up on the index card. So you want to make sure it really dries, or embrace the mistakes. Just kind of work with, you just work with what you have. Again, There are no mistakes in art journaling. This is a very intuitive process. Sitting down and filling in 6 index cards really it just allows you a little bit of time to explore what you love. So grab your stencils. If you don't have stencils, you can make stamps from foam or anything else and kind of stamp. You know, you want something that's kind of big and chunky, or that's going to fill a lot of the page in. So I know that I have shown you guys before over in Art Snacks or somewhere, and I will find the link to that and post it below in the comments as well. How to make your own stamps, basically using the self-stick foam and cut out pieces of cardboard, and then just kind of make your own stamps. And that's another great way to add your second layer to your index card. All right, I am going to speed up a little bit of this stenciling process so you can see it, but you don't need to watch me do every small little step. All right. Now for the fun part. Well, another fun part. Stamps. Stamps are fun. Now I'm using a little bit of Distress Oxide. I'm using Distress ink. I'm using my good old love of my archival black. I do know that my Distress Oxide is semi-permanent. I know I have to be careful with some, know your supplies, know what you have, so that when you are layering, if you want permanent, use a permanent ink to stamp. If you don't mind and you can work around it, then, use anything that you want. The Distress inks and oxides actually work really well as a layered technique. Sometimes you don't want everything to be black. Again, just like with stencils, I've been doing the same thing with stamps. Honestly, I've come across some really good finds at secondhand stores for stamps. I think so many people were on the card or scrapbooking bandwagon for so long, and they've kind of started to clean out, that sometimes you're really blessed by finding those gems in a secondhand store. You can also order bundles of stamps on Amazon, through different Etsy, Facebook Marketplace. Just kind of keep your eye out. Also remember that you can make your own stamps. You can use just about anything for a stamp, and it's kind of really rewarding. But same process here. I'm just trying different colors, layering in different looks. So I'm alternating. So this card I'm working on here, I used the square. Notice I turned it to the side a little bit. And then I just put a pretty light, whimsical leaf pattern over it. So kind of pay attention to your patterns as you layer. You want to kind of bounce around the round and the square, the curve and the flow of the line. Just keep moving things back and forth and seeing what you like. You're playing with color here, but you're also playing with shape. Okay, so now that I made that last one a little bit darker blue and went over, that's pretty dominant. So that kind of took over, that became the foreground. Whereas if I would have used a lighter or a less busy stamp, it would have gone to the back. So again, this is all playing. This is why we're doing this mini art challenge. You are going to learn so much using these and building on these. So what I do want you to do also, when you finish, but you could do it right now, you could write on the back. You're kind of keeping a journal. You're keeping an artist's journal, I call it. And on the back, you could write maybe the color of acrylics that you want, the stamp, the stencil. You can, or the color of the stencil. You write down the information on the back, and you could do that now for your background, and then by the time you finish, you'd put everything on there so that basically they become like little reference pages for you. If you wanted to do that, it could just be a pretty book that you're going to end up putting together. One more thing is you're going to want to remember to date them. So if you make a book, you could generalize the whole book as September, October 2022, or you can date each little card however you choose to do. So it took less than a half an hour for me to get these 6 little backgrounds set and ready to go on these cards. So you see here, it's just a good beginning. Plus I've got some white ones that I can grab depending on the prompt and where I want to start. Now the first 2 prompts are faux hand stitching and an eye. There's all kinds of ways we can go with that. All right, have fun.